Good afternoon, traders. This is Christian from Choppy Trade Group, and this is your end of day market recap for Wednesday, February 28th. I got the day right today. Yes, we've got one more trading day of the month to go. I will get to a lot of today's themes, some of the after hours movers. Risk disclaimer in front of you. So first things first, everything that we're going through is for information purpose only, not giving out any advice or recommendations. Please read the full risk disclaimer right there. So a couple quick themes of the day, and I'll kind of go through charts once I get through these. But we actually had a nice day in terms of what bonds did today. There's no major bond auctions today, but TLT did have a nice day. TLT finished up 0.6%, right? The dollar was up a little bit, and it was a very choppy day. It was one of those days where we did see more things going down, I think, over the course of the trading session versus going up. You could see that by the red colors on your screen. There was a couple of things that went up, but not too many popular areas. REITs were actually up, and maybe interest rates drove that move. Could have been something in earnings too. I don't pay that close attention to that group. I don't trade REITs particularly unless something unusual is going on. Aerospace and defense stocks also did well today. But yes, like very choppy day. The Bitcoin move was all over the place today. I'll cover that as well. And the China names fell. They were down pretty decently. We talked about them yesterday. I said that I was not ready to get involved in those, that I continue to watch closely. But especially something that's in a downtrend, I really have to like something to go after, a whole group and index that's in a downtrend. So let's talk first about just broadly, because I think it's kind of interesting what's going on in this market, and then I'll talk about some of the moves that I highlighted there. But here's the S&P. There's not a lot to really, I've talked about this. I think I talked about this in yesterday's video. There's not a lot to really super analyze here. We're in a trend. And you could see that over the last, basically since the beginning, after the first week of this year, it's been a little bit up, it's been a little down, riding the 5-period moving average. As soon as we kind of come into the 20-day moving average so far in this year, we spring back up and get back above the 5-period moving average. We come down for a day or two, so that's been the pattern. And it's been a little bit more, it's been a little, there's been a little bit more fluctuations, I'd say, the last couple weeks versus what we had in here. But really, there's nothing changed with these pictures. The 20-day moving average, the 50-day moving average, they're all sloping higher. So, could we come in and check down to the 20-day moving average? Of course, and we have tomorrow's month end. I bring that up, and I talked about that in last night's video, that just the fact that I don't trade the end of months very well. And, I gave the performance of last month end, which was, I think, down like 1.6%. So, I mean, they're not all that way, but, just a reminder that they can be tricky, as there's usually some type of portfolio rebalancing. If we go to the 1-hour chart, right, this is another chart that I've shown a couple times this week, right? We're pressing back into this bottom of value. Note this 200-period moving average is going higher and higher. So I made mention of this like back earlier in the week, that if we break this, then the next thing to watch would be the this. But I would be careful of that, because sometimes once we kind of do break a support level, sometimes we get a little bit more momentum through that, and it's a fairly big value area for the week. All right, so that's again 506.625. It's the same level I mentioned yesterday. We were right around there too. I think this was yesterday. We came in here and we bounced a little bit, but we really didn't get too far. Also, the other thing to notice here is you got a series this week of lower highs. Now, it won't take much to break this, either to the upside or to the downside. So, again, we could speculate all we want, but why not just wait for it, right? That's always the situation, and that PCE deflator could be something that drives that. Again, it's a complicated day, because you've got that PCE deflator, and then you've also have end of month stuff, right? So, and then of course Friday is the first of the month, and that might change the tone a little bit, right? Same thing with Qs here, and we'll start with the 1-hour chart here, but it's been trending down. It's been moving, it's got a little bit more downside slope to it than the S&P, and it's been a little bit weaker, right? And here's what the Qs look like on the daily chart, right? We've now broken the just the 5-day moving average, right? It's not as clear and concise as we just looked at with the S&P. There's a little bit more shake that's been going on with the Qs, but again, same thing, like 20-day moving average, 50-day moving average. This sloping higher is just a little bit more volatile, right? Remember, this is where we were right before NVIDIA reported earnings, and that kind of saved, I don't want to say it saved the day, but it certainly helped, right? And brought up the whole group. And since then, we've just been kind of, giving that back a bit and digesting, right? And then, of course, IWM, which didn't do much today. IWM was what, down 0.8 of a percentage point. My thoughts on IWM, which I've relayed a few times, is that I think that you're really going to need a move in interest rates to get IWM to really do something, then move sideways. Right? I even said in my morning note, like, hey, that we've got extended up here, could we come back and check back into the 50-day moving average? I think that definitely could happen, because that's the way this has been trading. Right? Check into the 50-day moving average, move back above. Right? Don't get too excited here, because you check back into the 50-day moving average. Oh, look at this, 3 big days higher. Don't get too excited, because we check back into the 50-day moving average. Oh, 2 big days of rally here. Don't get too excited, because we check back into the 50-day moving average. So we're sitting here again, and that's why I'm not getting too excited about that. I think that should kind of sum it up for you. So what do we want to talk about next? Let's talk about, I think what a lot of people are talking about these days is what Apple is doing. And, so first of all, when we look at tech in the S&P, it's about a 29% weight. So it's the largest weight, right? And if you don't believe me, I'm not making these numbers up, right? Here is tech, right? Which is 29.6% of the S&P. So it's the largest weight. The next largest weight is the financials, which is all the way down at 13%. Then healthcare. And if you add, I think you have to add 3 of these together, which is financials, healthcare, and consumer discretionary. That gets you to what, 25, 30, 35%. So you need 3 sectors, is the next 3 sectors to get over the weight of tech. So that's why it's an important sector, because it's so large, right? And of course, the biggest weight, we're sitting here, we are below now what is that, the 50-day moving average? No, I think that's the 200, isn't it? Right, I don't see a 200. I don't see another moving average in here. So it does look like Apple broke through that 200-day moving average, right? So let's bring up this next. Right. I haven't really been, I don't trade Apple much. So that's, yeah, it is below the 200-day moving average. So yeah, I mean, I don't know if this really breaks down, or if my thought is that it just kind of doesn't do much. Maybe it goes sideways for a while. For the time being, we're holding the bottom of the value area, and Apple's been inside its value area for the whole for all of 2024, and that's another reason why I haven't been trading it too, is that the technicals really haven't warranted it. When something's inside value, right, as it is here for the yearly value area, it's in a range, right? And I like to trade things that are trending. So regardless, it'll be something to kind of pay attention to. The overall XLK ETF, I had a couple, I was talking about this on Twitter. So yeah, to me, it's not breaking down. It's just the fact that it made a lower high, and it kind of just lost its momentum, right? It's the same thing with XLC too, right? I talked about how over the weekend, how we've hit this big VPOC that's taken out. So this isn't this isn't meant to startle anybody, because I'm not all about the drama. I think that overall, these groups have had really good runs, and what we've seen over the last few weeks is something that I've been just really talking about, is that there's been a broadening of participation, other areas of the market, right? And I say this till I've been blue in the face. We saw healthcare move earlier in this year, right? We've seen industrials, which by far have been like I continue to see industrials as the top group in terms of that has 4-week breakouts, 4-week new highs. Right, that's in my note. If you're reading my note on a daily basis, you know that there's like almost every day we're seeing the majority of the 4-week new highs are coming up in the industrial space. Right, so. Right, and here's today's, right? This is exactly what I'm referring to. Notice how many, and again, this is not 52-week, this is 4-week new highs. I like to kind of look at the short term because sometimes you can pick up on the trends a little bit faster. But again, look at all the industrials, right? Very little tech on here. So even like if you forget about Apple for a minute, the whole group of tech is actually showing that it's showing that it's lost some upside momentum to it. All right. But again, I don't know if it really goes, if it's really, that bad in terms of maybe going sideways here. And here's what the weekly chart looks like too. Right. And again, that wouldn't be bad, in my opinion. Now, why wouldn't it be bad, in my opinion? Because I think people have been, when somebody gets a little bit tired like this and there's some profit taking, right? You need a little bit of fluctuation. You need a little bit of volatility to get people excited in the group again to start buying the dip, right? People aren't going to buy the dip up here per se. Right. What about the semis? Right. The semis, right, had this big move. Obviously, what was that? The day after NVIDIA reported. So I think it was Thursday, big move up. This was up like almost 7%, right, on this big move up. And since then, it's been kind of just digesting. And if you look at NVIDIA right now, right, which is the leader of the group, the leader of the band, right, here is your gap up, and it's kind of just sitting in here. So again, this is not bad in my opinion. Let some of the hot money, fall out of this group as we went over in yesterday's, right, in yesterday's video. So again, I think overall, the market is in pretty good shape. Could it have some type of a pullback because it's been up so much so far this year? That's in the cards too. So you just kind of have to be careful of your trades. And, for me, like today, I did not have a good day. Besides, my day got off to a really good start with Bitcoin. I mentioned I would talk about Bitcoin, and here's what happened in Bitcoin today. It almost seemed like a little bit of a blow off top to me, right? Here's the 1-hour chart. Look at the volume on that move. So just an enormous move. We did get our target, so I sold. I missed the very tippy top, but I sold my IBIT position, which we just put on like here last week, right? So we could actually take this arrow out of here now. But this was an idea I even put on trading view too, so you could kind of see it's pretty cool. I like how that you could do that. Remove drawings. Oh, I don't want to remove them all, but okay, that's fine. Here is the idea, right, that I put out. I don't know why you can't see that here, but so you could hit play, right, and you can see, well, how, here's how it went. Something's not right with this, but in any event, maybe it's not capturing today's price action. That might be what it is, but in any event, it's pretty cool. So yeah, so this my day started off great. Hit the target in that, also hood. Which, by the way, I don't think the move is done in hood, but if something goes up like this in a week, I take the money and I put a good portion of it in my pocket, right? And it did achieve one of my short-term targets, and this is where I took profits, right? I had somebody who was like mad at me pre-market on Twitter. Everybody's always mad on Twitter, I guess, but they're like, it's not done going up. I'm like, I agree, but it's isn't it smart to take targets, and this way I could add that back, when I want to reload, right? And it's trim and trail, right, is what we want to be doing, into strength. So in any event, that went pretty well for me. A couple other things just did not. Look at what happened with the metals and mining group today, right? I put on a trade of METC, which did not go well, so I lost some money in that trade. Right, here's AMR. Right, so I think what happened, the only story that I read about this, right? So AMR is, like, I think, the best name in the coal space. I heard that Russia was increasing their production, right? And that's a really big head fake in this AMR. And I was caught in this METC, right? We don't just talk about the winners, we talk about the losers. And I got out of this. I gave this a shot I bought the dip a little bit, and it kept dipping. So I got out of this trade. Interesting. It took out a VPOC down here, but it got through my stop, right? Uber's another one that I tried yesterday. I was talking about this yesterday. I think Uber is going to be okay, but it is what it is. I had a pretty tight stop on this, right? I was looking for this to stay above this trend line. It did not. And again, it's just kind of, it may just need more time, and that's perfectly fine. I'll try it again. I trade Uber quite frequently. But that's what, sometimes you're just going to have days like this. And I mentioned, like, that my trading, for whatever reason, is not great. At the end of the month, I just find it trickier. So NXT was another one too that I tried, and it was just going to be a short-term trade, but it just didn't lift. And again, not the chart doesn't look bad here, but again, I didn't want to really put on any swing trades today. Or anything meaningful into month end. But a couple other things just to go over. I think kind of some of these moves after hours are interesting. You got the haves and the have-nots, especially in the software group. Okta is up 20%. Dual is up 19%. We were stalking a trade in this one. Not an easy trade. There's no weeklies, no weekly options in this one. So I did put out a suggested trade for an earnings trade. Stock's up to 233. On the downside, we saw this big put buyer that went up in IGV, right, which is the software ETF. Right. And we never know exactly, what their head is or why they're doing it. But this case, it was easy to speculate because we have Salesforce, Snowflake, NTNX reported after the close, and you could see what Snowflake is doing, and it's bringing down a number of companies here. So kind of seems a little bit stock specific because the CEO is leaving, but they also missed estimates, right? They're naming a new CEO. So stock's down to 175, right? And bringing a lot of names down with it. And unless they came back, yeah, Datadog is down 4%. I also saw MDB. There it is. All right. So, let these names cool off, or some of them. The cyber names, right? I'm still hanging on to my last piece of a swing trade in CrowdStrike. I had a question today from a member asking, well, it wasn't about CrowdStrike, but I still like CrowdStrike above these two short-term moving averages. And the other one that I added earlier in the week is cyber. I didn't add to it. I think I added on this day. Right. So I'm about like flat in the trade, and I'm okay just being patient for now. I want to get out of February, and then maybe we could get a little bit more aggressive. So that's it for today's recap, guys. These earnings reports continue to be interesting. It seems like every day we're getting a couple of them that are just flying. We saw that with a couple of reports yesterday, and also, it's not all. And I call it every day the haves and the have-nots. So I think that we've got, again, I continue to say it's a very interesting market. I like this toast chart. Right, breaking the value area, so that's another name that could be looking at for next month, as it broke the value area today, right, and now above where it was for earnings. Remember, that was a strong earnings report. All right, guys, thanks for watching. Have a great night. See you tomorrow.